Travel Mart 2019. Himalayan Travel Mart 2019, hosted by the Government of Nepal, Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, organized by Nepal Tourism Board, executive organizer, Pata Nepal Chapter, official airline, the national flag carrier, Nepal Airlines, organizing partner, Pata Headquarter, and our host city, Kathmandu Metropolitan City. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to you all. This year, we are all gathered here to witness the spirit of Himalaya on this beautiful venue of Hotel Solti Crown Plaza.
We would also like to thank all our sponsors. Our activity partners are
Nara and High Ground Adventures,
supporting partner,
Ray-Ban,
premium partner,
Seeker Insurance,
event partner,
Nepal Investment Bank Limited,
health partner,
Civic Hospital,
communication partner,
Ansel,
official venue and event partner.
Solti Crown Plaza,
Platinum hospitality partners are
Kathmandu Guest House, group of hotels and resorts, Kantipur Temple House, and Traditional Comfort House.
Our gold hospitality partner is
Hotel Tibet and Hotel Tibet International.
our silver hospitality partner is
Hotel Akama,
our supporting hospitality partners are
Hotel Royal Singhi, Hotel Kaja Darbar, Royal Penguin Boutique Hotel and Spa, Hotel Mulberry, Shambaling Hotel, Hotel Shangri-La, Green Mansion Jungle Resort, Safari Narayani Hotel, Himalayan Front Hotel, Chitwan Barahi Jungle Lodge, Chitwan Jungle Villa, Lakeside Retreat, Hotel Barahi Lakeside, Lake View Resort, Mountain Kailas Resort, Mountain Glory Forest Resort, Waterfront Resort, Chitwan Paradise Hotel, and Kathmandu Marriott Hotel.
our silver airline partner is
Qatar Airways,
our supporting airline partners are
Air Arabia, Himalaya Airlines, and Buddha Air and Druk Air.
our official publishing house is
WB Media,
our event management company are
Event Solutions and JST Productions,
and our IT partners are.
Nectar Dizit and Transync.
We'd like to thank our sponsors once again and welcome you all to Himalayan Travel Mart 2019. I am Rital Rana, and I'm the Managing Director of Mid-Valley International College. I'm also Pata chapter member and a teacher.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Anish Tamang, and I'm a student at Silver Mountain School of Hotel Management. And both of us, we are the master of ceremony for today's event.
While we are here to ensure that you guys are comfortable, we're also concerned about your safety. Today's presentation will take 8 hours, but if you don't like our speakers, there are 2 emergency exits, one to the right and one to the left.
We would also like to request to keep all of your mobile phones and electronic devices on silent mode. Should you want to share your conversation with everyone in this room, we suggest they give you the dirty look.
In case of taking a selfie, please make sure everyone else is also looking good in it and include hashtag HTM 2019.
Unfortunately, there are no individual life vests under your seat. But if you be drowning on the user's information you're getting, we suggest you start planning on who you're going to date with tonight.
This session is actually going live in Nepal Tourism Board's Facebook and YouTube channel. It's also live on HTM and Pata Nepal Chapter's Facebook page. So please remember to smile. You're on camera. Now, with everybody smiling, we would request everybody to stand up for our national anthem.
नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली सायौं थुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली प्रकृतिका कोटि कोटि सम्पदाको आचल वीरहरूका रगतले स्वतन्त्र अटल ज्ञान भूमि शान्ति भूमि तराई पहाड हिमाल अखण्ड यो प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बहु जाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति छन् विशाल अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल।
So, Anish, have you ever emceed with a teacher before?
Well, not really, ma'am. This is my very first time.
Actually, this is my first time emceeing with a student as well. But don't worry. Just wipe off your sweat. You can say your lines slowly. Read them slowly one by one. Take a pause, deep breathly, and smile for the audience. And if you have any questions, just raise your hand and ask me.
Not at all, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay then. Let me introduce to you a leader who has been working endlessly with fire in his belly, winner of countless awards for the best hotelier, and mostly winner of hearts by endlessly working towards spiritual tourism to bring peace and prosperity to Nepal. The man responsible for the spirit of the Himalayas. Let us welcome Mr. Suman Sakya, Chairman of Kathmandu Group of Hotels. May I invite you for the welcome remark.
Thank you, Rital. Thank you, Anish. What a fantastic MCs we have today. And I'm Sunil Sakya, and I'm welcoming you today. So, good morning to you all. I hope you had a good sleep, good rested, you feel rested today. And we want to sort of try to make this a very short program on the welcoming because we've had our say yesterday from the organizers' part. So let me just try to come to the points. And the distinguished guests, distinguished speakers, global buyers, Himalayan sellers, travel bloggers, influencers, respected guests and delegates, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, namaste and good morning. A very warm welcome to all of you on the second day of the Himalayan Travel Mart, where we will be witnessing today about 20 plus world-class value speakers, industry, thought leaders, spiritual leaders, mystics, spiritual gurus, influencers, international tourism experts who will discuss and provide unparalleled insights on the various subjects including the spiritual tourism, adventure travel trends, responsible and sustainable tourism, digital transformation and new trends in tourism, travel trends, and also discuss on the latest opportunities. The HTM 2019 conference being held under the theme, The Spirit of the Himalayas, is to inspire the audience and to understand both the intangible and tangible spirits of the Himalayas, unveiling its diverse tourism offerings and potentials. Apart from standalone presentations and knowledge sharing by our distinguished speakers, we will have 3 plenary sessions. First one, the spiritual tourism in the Himalayas. Second, responsible and sustainable tourism experiences. Third, digital transformation and the new trends in tourism and hospitality. Himalayan Travel Mart, HTM, aims to showcase Nepal as an international gateway for tourism for the entire Himalayan region, facilitating a common platform for networking and relationship building among the hospitality stakeholders. I believe that the insightful conference today will draw discussions and knowledge, sharing the contemporary issues, trends, challenges, and opportunities for the development of the Himalayan tourism. We have already elaborated the theme yesterday from the organizers' side, including our PM's passion, Prime Minister's passion for the Himalayas. So we will not take too much time and get on with the program to hear more eminent speakers on the content. On behalf of PATA, Nepal Chapter, Himalayan Travel Mart 2019, I take this opportunity to thank all the distinguished speakers for your valuable presence and support. Thank you, and have a wonderful and a productive day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sunil Sakya.
Well, you know, ma'am, as a hospitality student, I always want to provide the best out of best in this industry. And my benchmark for professionalism has been set by none other than Mr. Upal Mazumdar. And whenever we think about consistency, whenever we think about quality and the guest satisfaction, we always remember Salty Crown Plaza. For the man responsible for the ongoing success of Salty Crown Plaza, may we please have on stage the General Manager of Salty Hotel Crown Plaza, Mr. Upal Mazumdar, for the opening remarks.
Thank you. And as you can see, we have very smart students in Nepal. You know, they know how to strike the right chords, all right? So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the third edition, the third year in a row that we are hosting the Himalayan Travel Mart. Many of you have traveled from different parts of the globe to be here. So on behalf of the Intercontinental Hotel Group, IHG, and Salty Crown Plaza, I would warmly welcome you to my hotel, to this travel mart, and I'm sure you're going to have a wonderfully productive day. As you know, we are running a little behind schedule, but it's not a problem. We'll make it up during the day. So have a great time. And I just want to inform you in terms of some small hygiene and housekeeping rules. So we've got 2 and 2, 4 entrances. Those are your emergency exits. All right. This side goes out to where the booths are, and all your lunches and meals are outside in the lawn where you had the dinner yesterday, and it's all well laid out for you. If you need anything, me and my team are here to cater to any needs which you might have. Have a fantastic travel mart, enjoy the day, enjoy Kathmandu, and I'm sure you'd love Nepal and carry that back in heart and get us a lot of business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Majumdar. Now for the next speaker, we wanted to get the real deal with the speakers, so we spoke to them yesterday. You will not read this in their profiles because we dug it out for you. As he was leaving for the night from yesterday's inauguration session, he was tired. I could see that he was surrounded by people who wanted a picture with him. When I went up to him, I was hesitant if he would oblige me for an interview. But he did. I wanted to know what keeps him going on to conquer mountains. And he simply said, because it lifts my spirits. He has come to Nepal for almost 60 to 70 times now. And I asked him why. He said the most important factor are the people of the mountains. Simple, smiling, and welcoming.
Well, he's none other than Mr. Doc Scott, and he's also a world-renowned English mountaineer. He started climbing at the age of 12. He's a world recognized as the first Briton to climb Everest on 24th September of 1975. He has almost made his ascent to the southwest face of Everest, and he has done 45 expeditions to the high mountains of Asia. He has reached the highest peak on all 7 continents, the 7 summits. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mr. Doc Scott with the topic, The Lure of the Himalayas.
Well, thank you both, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, my brief is to discuss the lure of the Himalaya, and yeah, I have been lured here many times, really as much for the mountains as to be with the mountain people. And I suspect it's the mountain people, more and more, that brings visitors back more and more. There's just something so special about meeting the people in rural districts, high in the Himalaya, people who've got none of the amenities we all take for granted coming from the towns, and yet there they are, so hospitable, so welcoming, and so caring. It's sort of it's quite challenging, really, sort of a reminding factor of how we all can be if we aren't rushing around like mad things all the time. Actually, I came twice in 1972, Everest in the spring and Everest in the autumn. Failed both times, but what did occur then was the talk of the town was that it was Nepal's first tourism master plan being drafted, and it was all being announced in the local paper. So I was kind of there in the beginning of your tourism, and here we are today, with a long way from those distant times. But the first people to visit the Himalaya were bands of nomads during the Archaic period, 40,000 years ago. Now, since I've only got half an hour, I think I better push on from there. And I'm always being told by my wife that less is more. So, despite all these notes, I'll crack on. Now, just like to say, there's hardly a Himalayan valley that hasn't had in residence nomads, but also sages, saints and holy men, seeking peace and quiet from madding crowds. The Mani walls are evidence of the devotion once practiced in the Himalaya, and also the holy caves, gompas and monasteries. Most of the caves seem to have been inhabited by Padmisambhava or Milarepa later. Everywhere I go, there's caves dedicated to these two great saints, Buddhist saints. Did anyone know the Himalaya better than them? What great tour guides they would have made. And I'm sure those Buddhist saints would have agreed with William Blake, the English poet, who said, good things are done when men and mountains meet. This is not done jostling in the street. More about that later. It is a magical place, the Himalaya. Now I'm old and feeble, unable to climb Himalayan peaks. I still have an excuse to come out here, checking on Community Action Nepal's projects. I founded a charity about 30 years ago to kind of pay back the guys that helped me climb some 30 or 40 peaks here when they were asking me to help in their villages. And with a whole bunch of very keen trustees from Britain and volunteers from all over the country, we have put in about 50 odd projects. And I keep coming here with the trustees, some of whom are here in the audience, to make sure the money, our donations are being spent properly. So I still get above the tree line, and it is just amazing actually to go out above the tree line into that area where it's just rock and ice. There's a few straggling flowers, and you reach that point somewhere around 15,000 feet, where you give a big sigh and back in this magic wonderland, where the air is so sharp and clear, where the mountains are vibrant against the blue sky. And you just wonder why it's taking you so long to come back here. Back home, you soon forget. And it's no wonder to me, and all of us, I'm sure, that's been up there, that the Himalaya have been called the abode of the gods. The first Europeans to be lured here were in the 17th century. They were holy men too, but this time Jesuits. definitely not there to commune with nature, as they found the Himalaya completely inhospitable, places of desolation and horror. They were seeking the legendary patriarch, Prester John, and the lost Christian kingdoms. That's a whole other story. But they were the first Europeans to penetrate the Himalaya. Then came the British from India, mainly trying to find ways to trade with Tibet, and perhaps a backdoor into China. Warren Hastings, the Governor-General of India at the time, sent Bogle through Bhutan into the Chumbi Valley to Shigatse. They actually sent him with portaloads of potatoes to plant at every stage he went through. And those potatoes, of course, really took off. So and now they're all over the place, all over the Himalaya. So the British haven't been entirely useless. Have introduced you all to potatoes. So. The British then started to come in ever-increasing numbers, explorers, cartographers, geologists, plant hunters, and the first Himalayan tourists who came just for the pleasure of being in the hills. No commercial reason, no scientific reason, just to be here for the sake of it. By then, let's say by 1856, as Ruskin put it, mountain gloom gave way to mountain glory. And the mountains after Wordsworth, Coleridge, Keats and those Lakeland poets were now appreciated aesthetically, if not romantically. And ever more British came out, and with a few Europeans as well, the Chagalates from Germany, Austria, to just be here in the Himalaya. Then came the mountaineers. Since the Alps in Europe had all those, they climbed all the main summits, they'd taken all the main features, all the elegant buttresses, they climbed all the faces. So all the time now, after that, they were looking to the greater ranges where they could find new summits and new routes to do. The Caucasus and, of course, the Himalaya. Why new? Because new routes are where it's at. Why? Because there's more uncertainty as to the outcome when setting off where no one's been before. And that, of course, is the whole kind of underlying ethos of any adventure in business or anything. When you're not quite sure how this is going to work out, when you're on tenterhooks, when you're perhaps losing a night's sleep the night before the adventure. And you know, there's still more peaks here in the Himalaya and Tibet, over 6,000 meters that are unclimbed, that have been climbed. So there's much to do in that regard. Everywhere across the Himalaya, except Everest, there's nothing much new to do there, since the mountain was climbed long ago in 1953, and since then it's been traversed by the Americans, 63, that was the most fantastic thing ever done. The ridges were taken, the steeper buttresses, and then the faces. So there's nothing new, really, to do on Everest. So for serious mountaineers, it's kind of not important. But on every other mountain, it is important. There are important routes to do. As late as 1979, we found a new route to do on Kanchenjunga, making the third ascent in that year, and the first by the northwest. And all around Kanchenjunga, there's smaller peaks to be done. And all over Nepal in the west, friends of mine from UK go out there every year to climb a new peak in that region. In East Tibet, fantastic number of mountains that no one's ever even been to. So why I'm talking about this here is that I've often wondered why the Sherpa, such fantastic climbers, and given us all such pleasure in the mountains, haven't set out themselves as groups of their own people to look and source new routes to be done. Because they have that capacity, they have that strength and skill. But for some reason, they've never actually gone out, as far as I know, and done anything much that's absolutely new. They've been with Westerners and helped them climb something new, but they haven't themselves sat down and thought, use their imagination to think of something interesting to do that's never been done before. So I hope that, we've been talking about that in the Kathmandu guest house the other day, and we hope that situation might change as the local indigenous climbing scene starts to mature. Well, let's move on to the main sort of topics here. Mass tourism. The problem with mass tourism, it tends to destroy the very thing everyone signs up to experience. Mass tourism destroys the very thing we all sign up to experience. The tyranny of numbers. It really is a problem. No one goes to the popular areas of the Himalaya these days to find solitude. Himalaya is no longer a place for peace, serenity, and spiritual renewal due to the constant distraction of fellow trekkers. It's now hard to make your trek a walking meditation at the height of the season. It really isn't. I mean, I was there with my wife, Trish, a few years ago going up to Frichi, and all the way tried to take the odd photograph of each other, and it was hard to do that without somebody walking into the picture or someone backing up behind, patiently waiting, because it was a continuous stream of people. That was incredible to think of how it used to be in 1972, how it's moved on. How to reverse the situation and return to this most beautiful and dramatic mountain landscape anywhere on the planet, to a place where the mountain people are not overwhelmed by the sheer number of visitors. And visitors are not so disappointed as my friend recently, this year, was trekking up there. He'd heard all about the wonderful sort of people up there. And he was so disappointed that he felt every tea house and lodge was just like a fast food joint where the owners just wanted you in and out as fast as possible. You know, something's getting lost here in this mass tourism. So is it wise to work out the carrying capacity of the Everest and other popular trails by gathering together a consortium of wise men and women from many disciplines with expertise in environmental impact, tourism, and with knowledge of local people, and then apply quotas? If so, how can this be done? How can this be achieved without causing offence to the visitor and not reduce the income of the local people? Well, that's something for you lot to work out. But there's one thing that's happening that's got to be dealt with. There's been so many insurance frauds committed over the last 10 years or more, centering on the demand for helicopters to evacuate trekkers for fraudulent reasons. Helicopter companies, agents and hospitals have grown rich at the expense of the insurance companies and ultimately the trekker. This is something that's has appeared many times in your newspapers, in our alpine journals, our magazines in the UK and all over Europe. Some French insurance companies, by the way, have already started to refuse to insure their nationals from travel in Nepal. Other countries are talking about it. We all remember how quiet it was during the Maoist insurgency, where various foreign officers in countries recommended non-travel to Nepal, too dangerous. So insurance companies wouldn't insure those nationals to come here. We all remember how quiet it was then. Basically, no insurance, no trekkers. I suppose, no problem. Continuing on this path will solve all problems of overcrowding and associated environmental issues. But I'm sure you'll be wanting to sort this one out, and I know steps are being taken. But now Everest, another 8,000 meter summits. Pre-1986, only one expedition per season was allowed on any route. So it was wonderful in those days, with time and space to be there, communing with the mountain as well as with each other. You simply just had to wait. Like, I went to Everest, fantastic look, twice in 1972, but then, of course, I was really keen to get this route done on the southwest face. I just had to know all the secrets of that face and beyond the point where we'd reached in 72. But I had to wait until 1975 autumn before there was another opening. I was quite happy to do that, as we all were. We were all quite happy to be patient and wait the time when the Nepalese announced that there was still a vacancy. So different today, where everybody wants it now. But so it's worth knowing that it is possible to wait. And it's especially good to have the mountain to yourself, or at least your route to yourself, when you're coming off the mountain. In fact, the best part of any climb is when you're off it. When you're off it. When you just off it, out of danger, at the bottom, in your tent, supping a mug of tea, and just lying there with you, feeling totally at peace with yourself as your strength returns, and feeling so clear-headed. With the internal dialogue, the chatter we have with ourselves all day and every day, it is kind of slowed down. And thoughts come in still, but lying there, they come in so slowly, you can pick the thought off. And with the recognition, that thought will evaporate, leaving quite a space between that thought and the next one that comes in. And it's in the space between thoughts, it's so peaceful. You seem to be more aware of all and everything then than usual. Of course, you don't have to risk your neck climbing mountains to get in that state. There's people here that know all about it, who are just sitting cross-legged in a quiet room. But that's one of the great things about the climb, when you're just off it. But not when there's 1,000 people milling about at the bottom at base camp. Or maybe you've been with 500 people on the climb itself, as it happening these days. Because we've all seen NIMS, recent images from Everest, where now the climber may be just one of thousands. No chance at all then to commune with the divine in nature or with one's inner self. But why should Everest be treated any differently to, say, Mont Blanc, the highest point in Europe, or the Matterhorn? We must respect the fact that Everest is the highest, a World Heritage Site, considered to be of outstanding universal value, and to many, the abode of the gods, and in particular, Miya Langsangma, the deity of the Sherpa community, who, if respected and if offerings are made, will bring health, wealth, and general prosperity to the whole area. I think I'll just put a few slides on to brighten up this otherwise dull speech. So I'll just take you to the top of the southwest face and a little bit beyond. Give you a break from my voice. No, I'll carry on talking about it. Let's see. Try that. So here we are. Our mission here was to go. That's good. Go up here, and let's go back. Here we are. Yep. By the way, I wonder if anyone's ever thought what happened to Everest. Well, he's under this tombstone behind the gasworks in Hove, south of England. So, we all think we're indispensable, but the graveyards are full of people we thought were indispensable. And there's Everest's resting place. And here's a plan of the mountain. You can see the red route, that's where we want to go. And that's the way we went in the 72, but we're going to go a different way in 75. There's the original route to the right, and the North Ridge, the Chinese made on the left, and the American route in the middle there. Now, on the walk-in, we always called in at Tangbochi Monastery to get Rinpoche's blessing for a safe return, especially all the Sherpas. So we got on the face, and just a bit of a problem with this pointer. It's a bit... There we are. So this is what the top of the southwest face looks like. See some climbers here. And quite steep. And it was Paul Braithwaite and Tut Braithwaite and Nick Escort that got into through the rock band. That was a big thing through this. There they are, having come down for a rest. That trip was all on oxygen. You see Tut here, eyes glued to Nick, who's got a lighted cigarette as he's changing his oxygen bottle. And there's the lighted lamp as well. So they came down, and Dougal Haston himself here, here's Dougal, took off into the gully with Angferber, very fine, brilliant Sherpa from Kumjong, who we saw last week, and he's there in 1975 carrying our tent and handling himself like a regular alpinist, because Dougal's crampons have come off. So he's helping Dougal up, and he's paying the rope out for me as I'm trying to find a place for Camp 6. He never got a chance to climb Everest that year, but he was there 2 years later on Everest with a Korean expedition above the Hillary Step when the Korean leader collapsed. Angferber's, for him, 10 minutes from the summit. It would look really good on his CV if he'd gone there and got Everest on his CV. It would have helped him get jobs with the foreigners later. But he never thought about that. He just got his shoulder under the guy's arm, got him down the Hillary Step, slept out, and later, next day, got him safely to the South Col without frostbite. So that's the kind of guys we had working for us on these big expeditions in those days. In their prime, there's nothing a Sherpa can't do, and wouldn't do for you if the chips were down. So on those big trips, siege-style expeditions, we owe so much to those lads. So there we are. We've got Camp 6 up for the first time in 75, and now we're pressing on. Looking down from Camp 6, by the way, you're very exposed. There's Camp 2, 8,000 feet below. A lot of interest in what we're doing, and we're going through, there's a step here to go through, on through deep snow, held us up. Didn't get to the south summit till 4 o'clock. That's amazing. Can you see my green arrow, green mark? Can you see it? Is that visible? Yeah? Can anyone hear me? Oh, good. Is that visible? Just. Is that better? There's the south summit. So we got there late, 4 o'clock, late for Everest. And being 4 o'clock, we stopped for afternoon tea. We had that here. Got the stove out, melted snow. And then moved along the frontier ridge, which it is, between Tibet and Nepal. Significantly, Nepal all in the light, Tibet all in darkness. I shan't go on about that. I'm a little bit sensitive these days. But here we are then, we've got to this point, and now we weren't the first, and neither was Ed Hillary. Ed Hillary was not the first to get to the South Summit. It was 2 days before, Charles Evans and Tom Badillin were there. Here's Tom. He's having a lecture from Charles, who's a doctor, actually a surgeon. And Charles is saying to Tom, whose oxygen set wasn't working, he was exhausted. And yet only a brief distance from the summit of Everest. Tom, if you want to see your wife and daughter again, we've got to turn back. And they did. And it's a good job they did. Because Tom only got to the South Col by the skin of his teeth. He was delirious, hallucinating, and he had to be helped down to the literacy face later. If they'd gone this extra distance from here to the summit, they both would have perished. But that's the sort of thing we have to instill. Agents should be instilling in all clients, that you don't push yourself into a position where you can't retreat. So many of the accidents that are happening aren't particularly to do with overcrowding, just silliness, just people being overwhelmed by their ambition. This was left to Ed Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing to come along. And it was Ed that actually led that step there, about 45 feet there. And he did it by laybacking against the winter snow, don't forget it's springtime, against the winter snow for 40-odd feet with his boots on the rock. And it was an amazing performance, especially as the boots were quite big. There they are. Actually, nobody got frostbite on that trip, but they're not actually designed for delicate climbing. So for Ed to have led that in those conditions was pretty good. In fact, it was the hardest pitch on the whole climb, right there, just below the summit. And so this is Dougal and myself going the same way in the autumn, where the snow is all piled up on the Hillary step here. Ed would have been inside the chimney here. And now on to the final bit, to the summit. Very happy to be there, as you can imagine. And I'm stood exactly where Tenzing was in 1953, where he put offerings to Mio Salongma, offerings to his deity in the snow. Ed himself never instructed Tenzing on how to take photographs. He never carried a flag at Hillary. He was only there for the sake of it, just to do it. Not for national glory, not for self-glory. Didn't have any photos of him up there. And quite interesting thinking of those times and the way they looked at everything. So here's Dougal and myself on the summit, which was a unique experience in our lives. Just him and me, great nature in the raw, watching the clouds building up below us. Beautiful sunset. We were there from 6 o'clock till 7 at night, which is a bit late. But we did have this amazing experience. Feeling part of something much bigger than ourselves going on here. Part of great nature in the raw. No one in miles. Well, finally, when the sun went down, we thought we'd better go down. And we actually did sleep here. It was the highest bivouac anywhere at the time. It was quite an interesting experience, but I'll leave that one. And here, we survived that. Minus 45 it was, without sleeping bags and without oxygen. And as it turned out, without frostbite. And that actually widened the range of what and how I might climb in the future, assuming if you could sleep out up there, you could sleep out anywhere. So it was very significant to me, this climb, for that reason. And it was only by chance that it started to dawn on us that we'd made the first British ascent. Everyone talks about that. That's how we're known, Dougal and me. Of course, Dougal's now dead. But what was interesting for us was just making the first ascent of the route. There is competition in climbing, amongst climbers. Not to be better than anyone else, but for the route, which is quite different from competitive sports. It's hard to get over these concepts to people who don't climb. They only read about it from the media. They're only interested in numbers, yardsticks. So there's our team, big team though. After that, we all went off in smaller groups of 3s and 4s, doing it alpine style. But then a lot more of those lads wanted to climb. Chris, our leader, Chris Bonington, led the trip brilliantly, organised for Patemba, who was here in the audience, and Peter Borman to go off and make the next ascent with Mick Burke and Martin Boyson following. There's Patemba on the summit. But unfortunately, Mick went on to the summit alone. Martin had gone back to Camp 6, and he was never seen again. He disappeared in a storm, clutching a camera, hoping to make the first cine for a TV programme back in Britain called Blue Peter. So we lost Mick Burke, who was a terrible bloke, great friend, raconteur type, heart and soul of the party gone. We think he probably fell down there, down the Kanchung face. So we all went back with this having happened, and timekeeping.
Housekeeping,
yeah. I'll move on. Yeah, so we got to know all the secrets of this face, and then went home. But things have changed since our day, as you know. This is not the one Min took. This is from about 6 years ago. So it's been going on some time, this. And what I'm going to say in the last few minutes of my talk here occurred some time back. So you can imagine now it's very hard to sort of commune with the mountain. There's no solitude for that kind of thing anymore. on these popular routes, go the other side of the mountain, go on the east face, you won't find anybody. The mountain's it's still possible to go to Everest and find a quiet place on it. So, well, you know all about that. So there she is, Mount Chomolungma, as the Tibetans call her, and Sagarmatha here, Everest at home, singing the blues, wondering about all those people having to evacuate their waste. Thousands of people now on Everest every year. Big problem. I don't know what Tenzing would make of that. Dougal and Tenzing myself after the climb. So we did see Rinpoche in the monastery, and he was interested in this famous face had been climbed, because about eight teams had tried it previous to us. Chris told him the story. Patemba there on the left, the blue shirt, translated. After listening patiently, Rinpoche stood up and said, "So, in perfect English, you British, you've been to the top of Everest, and now you're back down here. What good has that been to anybody? What a waste of time that was." Which took the wind out of our sails. I was asked to respond and said, well, I felt quite good about it, really, Rinpoche. Having been there, I felt now at peace with myself. In fact, I could go back home and be a better human being for this. Be more compassionate. I feel more tolerant to everyone suddenly. He wasn't at all impressed. I think he just thought it was a desecration of a holy place. But he's wrong in one respect. Ed, who, being first, was able to amass millions of pounds to help the Sherpa people with their schools, education and health, putting in Kundi Hospital, and later helping to build the Lukla airstrip, helping to help with tourism, the most fantastic income-generating schemes. So, there we are. I'm just going to finish off now with a few further observations. Why don't you sit down? Huh? Where are we? Yep. So, I guess, given the large number of people now being attracted to reaching Everest summit by this original route, and the increasing number of deaths, as I say, not all because of overcrowding, it seems inevitable that the number of permits will have to be limited after deciding the carrying capacity of Everest, as is done on Denali, or Mount McKinley, the highest peak in North America. But how to protect the mountain from the tyranny of numbers and at the same time accommodate those who have come to rely on Everest and other popular mountains for their income? Here are some suggestions from Sherpas, Western climbers and others interested in this. Our charity CAN, Community Action Nepal, only helps where help has been asked for and where it's really needed. We're not donor-driven, telling villagers what we think they need. Similarly, I make these suggestions on behalf of friends in Nepal who have asked me to do so, since the commercialisation of Everest and other Himalayan peaks is largely unplanned and uncontrolled. And that's not coming from me, I've been reading about that here. So consider making it a stipulation that a permit for Everest will only be given to those who've climbed at least one, if not two, other 7,000 metre plus summits, somewhere else in Nepal. And if not, at least return to checking on the client's competence to climb safely. Pre-86, we all had to bring a note from our Alpine Club in each country saying that we were competent to climb. If there are no restrictions, then we have to allocate teams to certain days. Can you imagine the problems of that? Not all on the those that not all on the day most favourable. What are they going to be thinking? There's going to be even more squabbles at base camp. We do hear down the grapevine that actually fights break out on Everest these days. That people steal each other's oxygen. All sorts of things go on that are not compatible with good mountaineering. Anyway, so best thing is quotas rather than putting people on the mountain at different set times, because there's always going to be huge problems there. refuse agents to operate on Everest who have previously been incompetent and have cut costs by employing inexperienced staff, which has placed clients and staff in danger, and have brought incompetent clients with little or no experience who push on when should turn back. Increased permit fee for the general well-being of the mountain and the people who live around it and work on it. To counterbalance the above, to use peak royalties to improve the working environment of the local guides by ensuring full insurance cover, but also setting up a welfare compensation board to cover accident and death, to ensure financial help to bereaved families, wives and children. Establish a fairly remunerated mountain rescue group from an elite corps of Sherpa and other local mountain guides on standby to assist with rescues. This same group could be employed to fix ropes at the beginning of each season and to remove them at the end of each season, as is done, but pay them a proper wage. To pay Sherpas and other guys for collecting, sorting, recycling rubbish and waste from off the mountain and glaciers, as a sort of regular thing, not just every now and again. If Everest hopefuls have to climb elsewhere in Nepal, then this will enable others in Nepal to benefit from high mountain tourism, and not just those in the shadow of Everest. It will spread the chance to benefit around Nepal. So in conclusion, is mountain tourism promotion compatible with enjoyment of high altitude tourism? There's so much else to discuss on this, including encouraging the dispersal of tourists to less visited areas and possibly at less visited times of the year. I've really enjoyed walking in the monsoon myself, as I often had to do to get to Everest for the right sort of window of opportunity in the weather. Walking through the rains and suddenly it's clear and it's all sparkling and rainbows. Don't write off monsoon travelling if the tracks are safe. There's work here for local mountain guides and sirdars to explore new trekking routes, especially now it becomes more difficult to find treks away from new roads and jeep tracks. This is a real problem. A lot of trekkers now coming here walking along roads. There is also working capacity development in previously untrekked regions to enable local rural communities there to benefit from mountain tourism by inducting homestay and lodge owners, guides, etc., into the art of sustainable tourism and supporting them to tap into government funding. I'm sure you'll be talking about this later. There are many success stories in Nepal. You're leading the world with animal conservation, and in particular, a fantastic increase in the rhino population. What a wonderful thing this has been for the rest of the world to see how it's done. Vast areas of afforestation. Well, at one time, we all thought Nepal was going to end up a mountain desert. And how wonderful that you've managed to encourage all the trekkers and lodge owners and everybody to use fossil fuel and not to be cutting down the last of the mountain juniper. That's a success story, as is the very vastly improved literacy rate in the country, establishing and maintaining the peace following 10 years of the Maoist insurgency. That's been fantastic. And devolving power to grassroots level, which we're finding with our charity is really working for us. And how wonderful to start seeing some of the streets of Kathmandu free of litter and parts of Tamil free of traffic. It can be done, and with the renowned resilience and resourcefulness of the Nepalese people, I'm sure it will be done. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the keynote address. Now, I request Mr. Doug Scott to please remain on the dais. Mr. Doug Scott, please remain on the dais. I would like to request Mr. Deepak Raj Joshi, the CEO of Nepal Tourism Board, to hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Doug Scott for all the lovely pictures. Anish, I guess you being here today means you're missing school?
Well, frankly speaking, not at all, ma'am. I mean, who misses school when you're having so much of fun here, right?
Excuse me, I'm a teacher. Well, you can tell so much of a person by just looking at her. And as I spoke to her yesterday, I felt the gentleness in her eyes. You can tell she's a traveler because she was calm and observant. She feels that traveling has opened her mind to different realities, and she feels like a global citizen. Her advice on traveling is to stay longer in one place, because then you will know the people and the little shops, rather than just the famous places.
Ms. Nori Quintus is a well-recognized authority in the travel industry with the expertise in developing contents for cultural and sustainable destination. She is also editor-at-large for the Washington, D.C.-based National Geographic Travel Media. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Ms. Nori Quintus for her topic, Adventure Travel Trends.
Thank you, Rital and Anish. Namaste. Good morning. And because I share an Asian heritage with many of you, I will also add a greeting in Tagalog, the main language of the Philippines. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you to the organizers, partners, and sponsors of the Himalayan Travel Mart, and to our hosts here in Kathmandu, and to delegates from all over the world. It's wonderful to be here with you on the roof of the world, especially as a medical issue actually delayed my arrival here by a week. But such is the spirit of the Himalayas that it really couldn't keep me away. We are in the country that arguably gave birth to adventure travel, as we've heard so clearly from Doug Scott, on Everest in 1953. And I'm here to talk to you about the future of travel. But let me be clear, that Everest photo that has gone viral in the last couple of weeks is really not the future, but the past. Adventure travel, after all, is about blazing new trails and taking on a challenge. 67 years later, in 2019, the world has changed. Where travel is going, and where I hope we will all be going, is very different. And that's what we'll be talking about in the next half hour. One thing I do know, Everest is more than just the climb to the summit. The Himalayas are more than just Everest. And Nepal is more than just the Himalayas. Oh. A little bit of perspective on the state of the world that we are living in for context. According to a new study, almost 40% of the population are more anxious than they were last year, and another 40% said they were equally anxious. Now, to be precise, this was a poll of Americans, but I think these numbers can be safely extrapolated to the industrialized West, if not to the whole world. And what do we worry about? Well, anything and everything. To be sure, there are many valid reasons for concern. The declining health of our planet, for one, caused by human activities. But making everything worse, our addiction to our phones and our insistence on 24/7 connectivity. One interesting study that I'll mention, stress hormones were found to rise when people see social media posts of others having fun in amazing places. It's called Facebook envy, or FOMO, which is an acronym for fear of missing out. So, if you're posting right now on social media about how much fun we're all having in Nepal, just know that you're contributing to probably making your friends really miserable. The irony of this epoch of anxiety is that according to most objective measures, the world is actually doing better on some of the most basic indicators of human flourishing, including poverty, literacy, life expectancy, and equality. For example, before the 17th century, only 5% of people could read or write. But more than 90% of the world's population are literate today. And 200 years ago, 90% of the world lived in extreme poverty. Today, less than 10% do. Obviously, this is metadata, and it may not necessarily reflect what's happening on the ground in different regions. But while the world may not be as bad as we think, we nevertheless live in a permanent state of anxiety. So much so that the travel intelligence company Skift mashed the two words together, permanent and anxiety, and coined a new word, permanxiety. So we can all relate, right? What's the answer to permanxiety? Well, here's my answer. Let's just say that I think the adventure travel industry, and by that I actually mean every single one of you here, is uniquely positioned to address this problem, this malady of modernity. Now, some of you may well ask or say, you know, I'm not in the adventure travel business. This is Nepal after all. Adventure is, adventure is different than most of the world. But when I say adventure travel, I'm using a different definition, how the term is evolving, not the definition from 1953 or even a decade ago. So you may not think of yourselves in the adventure travel industry, but you are. And we'll get to why that is in a few minutes. So stay with me. Perhaps people don't need therapy dogs or meditation apps or anti-anxiety pills as much as they need an adventure. Perhaps people need to stop scrolling down their Facebook feeds and getting depressed and join us here in the Himalaya in real life, IRL. I'm talking about something that takes people out of their normal environment, puts them in nature and a new culture, provides them a challenge that they can face and handle, preferably gets their blood pumping, and gives them a new perspective on themselves and their lives, and more importantly, recalibrates their relationship with the world. The many stories that you hear about people returning from an adventure trip and remaking their lives, often starting nonprofits and new businesses, that's this kind of travel. These are all examples of this kind of travel. So now let's look at some trends that we in the industry can capitalize on to further propel our businesses into the future in a sustainable way. Nature is the new necessity and the new luxury. What does this mean? How is something so basic to human life and vital to our survival a trend? Well, here's why. We've taken it for granted for so long that we are only now rediscovering what we are in danger of losing. You've heard these terms: nature deficit disorder, forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, nature therapy, digital detox, rewilding. These are trendy terms that all basically mean the same thing. We need to get back to nature. And Doug Scott referenced that as well in his talk. The big news is that science and data have gotten involved to tell us something that we already know intrinsically to be true, that being in nature makes you healthier and happier. We knew it all along, but science is now confirming it. Technology is allowing neuroscientists to take their measurement devices into the field, such as portable EEGs, that are capable of measuring brain waves. And what have they found? That the frontal lobe, that part of our brain that's hyper-engaged in modern life, it goes haywire in an urban area. But in a park, in nature, it deactivates. It slows down. Alpha waves grow stronger, which indicate a calm but alert state. That state so loved by meditators and monks. I'm not telling you something that you don't know. What I'm telling you is that your potential customer is now just starting to realize this. That list you see up there are scientifically proven benefits of being in nature. There is no prescription medication available in the world today that can deliver all of that with no negative side effects. And why is nature the new luxury? Because, as we'll see a little later, the definition of luxury has also changed. It's not just about labels and brands anymore. It's about obtaining something that's rare: time, access, uniqueness, authenticity, connection, which is why nature has become a luxury item. And just how rich is your region in this resource? It's no secret that you hit the nature jackpot when it comes to Nepal and the greater Himalaya region. You know this better than I. You've got the highest point on Earth. Everybody knows that. Plus 6 vegetation zones ranging from tropical to tundra, more than 800 species of birds, and an incredible array of reptiles and mammals, including 2 biggies, the greater one-horned rhino and the Royal Bengal tiger. Many destinations have already bulldozed their paradises and can never get them back. What's amazing is that Nepal currently has world-class, low-impact trekking routes and wonderful national parks that get you close to this kind of nature. It's vital to recognize that the wealth of the natural resources you have and ensure that so-called development is planned appropriately and does not imperil what gives this area of the world its unique characteristics. Here's another fun science fact about nature, and this was gleaned from a study of astronauts viewing Earth from space. And being in nature inspires a sense of awe, and awe leads to happiness. The dictionary defines awe, that's A-W-E, as an overwhelming feeling of reverence, admiration, and wonder. Apparently, looking at perceptual vastness, comparing it to our comparative smallness, inspires feelings of well-being. But you don't have to be an astronaut to feel awe. Just look at the world all around us. Look at the pictures that Doug Scott showed us. I like this idea of awe. The world is so cynical and jaded, and awe is the opposite of that. I think there may be interesting implications and applications for your businesses here. How can you help travelers encounter that sense of awe? And how would they feel about your company or your hotel or your destination if you can lead them there? And for a destination, how can you ensure that the experience for travelers is such that they can maintain that feeling of awe throughout their entire trip? Not just while trekking or taking tea, but on arrival at the airport and while getting around in Kathmandu and on departure. A lot of you in the room have heard the buzzword transformational traveler. Transformational travel, am I right? Am I right? Yes. In fact, some of you may already be tired of that term. It has been used and overused over the last couple of years. The idea is that a destination will change your life, or an attraction, or a hotel, or a drink. A dish will change your life. Most of it is hype and hyperbole. Well, except for Momo. Now, Momo has definitely changed my life. But Momo aside, most travel is oversold as, quote, transformational. However, that does not mean that the concepts that underpin transformational travel are not solid. So let's take some time to unpack the term. And let's start with the luxury travel category. The definition of luxury travel has been evolving along with the traveler. It has moved from product, with its external focus and its goal of status, to experience, with its internal focus and goal of good feelings, to Transformation, with its focus on purpose and its goal of meaning. As you can see, as we move down the line, things get more complex. A transformational trip can be hard to package because transformation is so personal. A trip that changes my life can look very different than one that changes yours, or yours. So as we've said, you cannot guarantee that someone will be transformed on your trip. That is hype and hyperbole and marketing, but you can foster it. The Transformational Travel Council, to which I'm an advisor and a member, is a group of operators and practitioners committed to helping their clients have these kinds of experiences. And it recognizes 3 factors that make up a transformational trip. 1, intent. That there's a shared understanding between guest and host that a trip could make a traveler experience an inner shift. 2, challenge. That the traveler will have opportunities to move out of their inner comfort zone. And 3, reflection and meaning making. That there is facilitation and support for thinking and making life changes before, during, and after a trip. And I put this quote up there by Sherpa Tenzing Norgay because I think it alludes to the kind of travel I'm talking about. The virtual cycle that we're looking for, travel leading to personal transformation, which in turn leads to collective change and a better world. So small adventure boutique operators and social enterprises, some of them are here, are leading this charge, designing trips with these features in mind, often using Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey as a framework. If you don't know Joseph Campbell, you should. That's not Joseph Campbell, but you knew that, right? Maybe you've heard of the phrase, follow your bliss. Joseph Campbell coined that term. But more significantly, Joseph Campbell studied the mythology of the world and found that there was one story, the monomyth, he called it, that every single culture in the world shared. That's one story that every single culture in the world has. And that story is the hero's journey. You actually already know the story. Many books and movies follow the same storyline, almost exactly. Luke Skywalker, Star Wars, Frodo in Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It's all the story of personal transformation, and it has universal appeal. There are 12 steps, which include the call to adventure, the ordeal, the return with the elixir. And there are elements of all of this in the world's great religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, and Christianity. In fact, I think that there are some obvious connections here with spiritual tourism, so I look forward to engaging with that a little bit later. So, if you want to facilitate personal transformation in your visitors, look at your product and your destination and identify points where it may connect with the hero's journey. How can you help craft an external journey that facilitates the internal journey? And how do you communicate that? There is so much here to plumb, and this really is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, on the right side of the slide, we can see the link between transformational travel and adventure travel. Research on the term adventure travel, taken by the Adventure Travel Trade Association, shows that more travelers of all ages are looking for meaning and purpose in their travels and to come home changed in some way. Adventure travel used to be all about fun and thrills and risk-taking. And it's amazing to me to see how the concept of adventure travel has changed over a decade. Travelers now insist on something more. We all want to be heroes in our own lives. We are hardwired for transformation and change. And travel, literally the physical movement through space, is one of the best ways to achieve it. We already know that you can't force transformation in travelers, but can you spark it? Can you push it along? because studies have shown that people will return to a place again and again where there has been an emotional connection. And that results in a greater propensity to want to share and to recommend. And wouldn't we all want to have others do our marketing for us? Let's look at this one other way. This slide shows that a successful adventure experience has external components of nature, activity, and culture that come together in a whole experience. And then on the right, we have a clear visual of the traveler's internal experience. This is what has motivated them for adventure travel and what they're hoping to gain on a deeper level. These are things that travelers are seeking, but they often don't articulate it. They're looking for the novel and the unique, wellness, both physical and mental, experiencing a challenge that leads to transformation. In other words, the hero's journey. This is the value of our industry and why I think it's the answer to the malady of modernity. The value that we deliver has always come from the ways in which we address people's deeper needs. And the engine of our sector is how we design experiences to speak to people's deeper needs. A desire for growth, for learning, for transformation. First, an acknowledgement. In the last 60 years, the industrial mass tourism model has provided jobs and incomes and lifted thousands out of poverty. But, to quote my friend Anna Pollock, founder of the movement Conscious Travel, like any adolescent that wishes to become an adult, it must now wake up, grow up, and step up. Anyone involved in tourism, whether government or industry, must wake up, grow up, and step up. Over-tourism is destroying the character and livability of European cities, such as Barcelona and Venice. Over-tourism is ruining coastlines in Asia, where famed beaches in Thailand and my own home country of the Philippines have been overrun and had to be closed. And no need to remind you of the elephant in the room. Over-tourism is a dark specter looming over Everest. Over-tourism occurs when these disparities occur. One, between the volume of activity and the capacity of the destination, or between the type of activity and the capacity to support it, or between traveler behavior and social norms in the destination. So over-tourism can have many faces. It can occur when visiting a centuries-old village with fragile infrastructure in a big bus instead of exploring by foot. It can occur when too many people attempt a summit in one day. It can even occur when too many travelers irritate local residents, behaving or dressing in disrespectful ways. I put some eyebrow-raising visitor numbers on the slide, representing global, sector, and local trends. In the past, these kinds of numbers would make everyone jump for joy. But now we have seen enough examples of over-tourism to know that numbers tell an incomplete story. And that a tourism strategy of chasing numbers like heads and beds is counterproductive and short-sighted. These statistics should give us all pause. So we need new metrics, and there are great case studies out there, and I'm going to mention just one. Earlier this year, Denmark's self-governing Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic closed the entire set of islands, the entire archipelago, to regular tourists for a few days, as 100 volunteers were recruited to work with islanders to build walking paths and viewpoints. The director of the tourism board said, "For us, tourism is not just about numbers. We also have a responsibility to our community and to our beautiful, unspoiled natural environment. Our aim is to preserve and protect the islands, ensuring sustainable and responsible growth." Remember, this is the director of the tourism board. You know, there is no silver bullet. There is no one answer. Each destination needs a customized and multi-pronged approach. Others have experimented with limits on visitor numbers, tourism taxes, visitor pledges, limiting concessions catering to mass tourism, and incentivizing sustainable operators. You know, what is the set of solutions that will work for this incredible destination? It will take coordinated effort between the public and private sector, but the time to act is now. Destinations need a more nuanced set of metrics to measure the socioeconomic benefits of tourism. You know, there are some interesting numbers that came out of a USAID study in Jordan, and it showed that mass tourism left 15% of the money in the destination, while adventure travel leaves 65% of the money in the destination. Now think back to the last slide, showing global tourism growing at a 5% rate and adventure tourism growing at a 20% rate. The takeaway, some kinds of travel and some kinds of travelers are more beneficial to a destination than others. So it's not about developing tourism so much as developing the right kind of tourism. The good news is that travelers want to travel responsibly. And guess what? They are willing to pay more to know that they are not doing harm while they travel. So, explain to them why you are not providing single-use plastic water bottles or straws, or why you keep the Jeep at a respectful distance from wildlife. Let them see you picking up trash along the trail. Explain how you improve the lives of your staff, give back to your communities, reduce their carbon footprint. Actively engage travelers in your efforts to improve the world. Not only will you create a positive ripple effect, but you are creating a loyal customer. So, what are the factors that make a destination good for travelers? The Adventure Tourism Development Index tells us it's a ranking of adventure tourism potential and competitiveness for countries around the world based on 10 pillars, which you can see over there on the right side. I pulled the numbers out for Nepal. Nepal scores highest for adventure activity resources and image. Its lowest scores are in the areas of safety, health, and humanitarian. You know, what's really interesting to note is that what makes a good destination to adventure travelers is also what makes a country a good place to live for residents. These two goals are linked, meaning that focusing on improving safety, health, and humanitarian pillars will have the dual benefit of attracting an economically beneficial traveler and also improve the quality of life for Nepalese citizens. Here's another big headline from the recent research. Hiking is the #1 activity for adventure travelers, up from number 6 a decade ago. Look no further than the popularity of long-distance trails and walks, such as the Appalachian Trail in the US, the Camino de Santiago in Europe, the Jordan Trail, and of course, your own Great Himalaya Trail right here. What's wonderful to note is that these tourism products are not just transforming travelers, but restoring communities and culture, creating local jobs, and protecting environments, which is really the point of tourism, isn't it? To create sustainable economic and social growth. Now, can more be done to capitalize on your own system of trails? Do you suffer from what Peru sometimes suffers from, that Machu Picchu is such a bright light that it obscures other products? I think there's a session later today that delves on this more deeply, so I'll be sure to attend that. I bet most people in this room can name the first men to summit Everest, right? No need to show hands, but I think we can all name that. Now, what about the first woman to summit Everest? Yes? Okay. Yes, thank you. Now, I had to look that up, and I bet most of us didn't know that. It was, if you didn't hear the gentleman, it is Junko Tabei, a Japanese woman, in 1975. Now, against this backdrop, I've put some interesting facts on the screen, and I'll highlight just two. Searches for female solo traveler grew by 52% in 1 year between 2016 and 2017. The other thing I'll point out is a majority of female travelers booking tours are going solo, according to leading tour operators. There clearly is a growing market that you should be paying attention to. And no, it is not just about adding stereotypical things such as shopping opportunities or spa services to your product. It's about truly understanding and addressing the needs and concerns of women, including hygiene, safety, and privacy, as well as demonstrating a commitment to women's issues, including more women in management and entrepreneurial roles, more women guides, equal pay and treatment. This is a big topic, and I'm just touching on it here. One final trend. Despite our love affair and our addiction to technology, humans still rule. In a study of so-called super travelers, Skift found that travelers today have more power in their iPhones than most airlines had in a mainframe 30 years ago. But that doesn't mean that they want to be left to navigate this world all alone after all. As digital overtakes our lives, there's a craving for human connections. For the travel industry, that means human connections throughout the life cycle of a trip, before, during, and after. But I think that it also means there's a real hunger for answers and a realization that modern society, with all its technology, does not have all the answers, and a returning, a pivoting to the ancient cultures and indigenous peoples for their wisdom and traditions. With destinations increasingly dealing with the implications of climate change, travelers already oriented to experience and transformation can look to the first stewards, the world's indigenous peoples, First Nations, culturally distinct tribes, ethnic minorities, those closest to the land. Nepal is a multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, and multicultural country. The country is the homeland to 125 castes and ethnic groups, 123 languages, and 10 religions. Indigenous peoples comprise more than 35% of the population of 26.5 million. Without romanticizing, without objectifying, without appropriating, we can nevertheless look to you and ask the questions: how are you practicing resilience and adaptation? What stories do you tell? What wisdom do you have? Community, nature, sustainability, transformation. This is adventure travel territory. This is the potential of our industry. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Nepal. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Ms. Quintus. Ms. Quintus, we will still require you on the stage. Ms. Quintus. So thank you so much, Ms. Nora Quintus, for your presentation topic on the adventure travel trends. And now to hand over the token of appreciation, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Dipendra Purustaka, the former Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, and is also the former Chairman of Nepal Tourism Board.
Thank you so much. Miss Quintus said, we are happier when we are close to nature. And when nature calls, we need to excuse ourselves. So here's to taking a 15-minute nature call break.
The tea, coffee, and the refreshments are being served right on the front lawn. So ladies and gentlemen, we expect to see you right after 15 minutes. Till then, please enjoy.